The PBC kicked Canelo Alvarez out of the PBC and back to the zone. Or at least that's the way you could read this news that came out from Michael Benson, or came from Dan Rayfield and his sources via Mike Benson about the breakup of Canelo Alvarez and the PBC. And after hearing this report, and after having heard all the other different interpretations of it, I thought to myself, wow, this could really be a completely different story than the way people were representing it. This sounds just as much like Al Heyman told Canelo, see you later, as it was that Canelo told Al to see you later. But let's go over the information and see if one version is not just as reasonable as the other. However, in neither case does it end up really with the PBC looking very bad. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to play Read the News and not try to make Al Heyman look like an incompetent buffoon, but analyze what happened as news come out about Canelo Alvarez and Al Heyman's PBC's breakup, and whether it really was a case of Al Heyman losing Canelo Alvarez, or whether it was a case of Al Heyman letting Canelo Alvarez loose. Before I get into the details, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you very much. Really does make a huge difference in the channel. Can't tell you how much you guys mean for your super chats and your super thanks, especially during this very dry time in the boxing world where you have to talk about stuff like this. But I'm going to do it. Let me read something for you that came out from Michael Benson. Al Heyman's PBC were reportedly willing to pay Canelo Alvarez's guaranteed purse for the Jermall Charlo fight in May, but only if he agreed to fight David Benavidez in September. It's claimed that Canelo's 3-fight deal with PBC initially set out guaranteed purses for various potential opponents. But Benavidez was never one of these, and Canelo did not agree to a reduced purse for a Jermall fight or to face an opponent who wasn't initially agreed upon in Benavidez, hence the split. This, according to Dan Rayfield, put out by Michael Benson. Now, you've heard, maybe if you haven't, that Al Heyman lost Canelo Alvarez because he did not have the money to pay. Did not have the money to pay Canelo Alvarez his guarantee. That's not what this says. What this says was that Al Heyman's PBC were willing to pay Canelo Alvarez his guaranteed purse for Jermall Charlo in May. But they only wanted it if he would agree to fight David Benavidez in September. So out goes the window the idea that they didn't have the money, according to Dan Rayfield, via Michael Benson. Canelo Alvarez had given a list of potential opponents for his next 2 fights to the PBC. That's the only way that I can believe that David Benavidez's name was not on it. Potential opponents, not agreed upon opponents, potential opponents. A list of potential opponents. Nothing in there says it's an exclusive list of opponents, but it's a list of opponents, potential opponents, and how much they would pay for these potential opponents, the guarantees. But Canelo Alvarez was not willing to take a reduction in his guarantee just to fight Jamal and move on, nor was he willing to fight somebody that was not listed there, which means he was not willing to fight David Benavidez. So it was the PBC that decided to let it go. Because also, obviously, Al Haymon was not willing to pay him the $35 million without him agreeing to fight David Benavidez. So you can look at it like Canelo left, or you could look at it like Al Haymon told him to leave, because Al Haymon said no. According to this, if David Benavidez, if Jamal Charlo if the PBC would have allowed him to fight somebody, if he would have paid Canelo the $35 million to fight Jamal Charlo and not even mentioned who was coming up next, then Jamal Charlo would have fought Jamal Charlo for $35 million and he'd still be there. He would have taken the fight. So it was actually the PBC, by not doing that, by not saying, yeah, okay, I'll give you the $35 million and we'll see what happens next. It was the PBC that let him go. That's just as reasonable a reading, of that scenario as the PBC leaving, Canelo leaving the PBC, which is why they wrote the part of it, the last part of it, that they split. They reached a loggerhead and they split. Now, what does that mean going forward? It doesn't mean that the PBC and Al Haymon and Canelo Alvarez won't do business again. It just meant, okay, this deal is over. We both walk away, going over there to the zone or go wherever you want for your next fight. And if everything works out for you, good, you stay with them or whatever. But we can get back to this again at some later point in time. Do you know when that happened before? And why I believe that's the most likely scenario? Because it already happened. When when Canelo Alvarez fought Caleb Plant, he came there for a one-fight deal. They couldn't work a second fight. And Canelo went back over to the zone. Same thing happened this time. Canelo comes from the zone, fights one fight. They can't agree on the next one. And Canelo goes back to the zone. Now, my suspicion is this, though, that eventually, and maybe this is just my wishful thinking, that Canelo is going to ultimately wind up fighting David Benavidez, because Canelo Alvarez is going to run out of these cherry picks over at the zone. And how long are they really going to be willing to continue to give him those type of deals? Unless it is Eddie Hearn asks to sign him to a 5-fight deal, which I wouldn't be surprised Eddie Hearn tries to do. But if he doesn't do any business with Al Haymon and he burns that bridge, even though I doubt very much that he did burn it, then he's going to be in a situation of declining wages with Top Rank. I mean, with Matchroom, because nobody else is interested in Canelo's fights. But at the end of the day, we'll see how it turns out. I don't really think that it's fair to say, based on the reading of the news that came out from reputable sources, that the PBC, that Al Haymon got fired by Canelo Alvarez because he couldn't pay money. I think that's just a terrible spin to put on it, even as much as any way that I might have described it, saying that PBC got rid of him. It seems like they both met a loggerhead and decided to go separate ways. But guess what? They very well may work again together in the future. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.